Assalamu alaikum students. As we know that in last video I have explained half chapter of the month of September, the border. Now today I am going to read and explain completely chapter of this month of September, the border. Now I am going to start. First I will read the chapter, then after reading the chapter, I will explain the whole chapter in summarize. Only in the Cafe Daniel was there any sign of life left in the village. You could hear the murmur of the patrons' voices in quiet conversation. As for me, worried that I would be home late, I followed the wall of the greater courtyard that separated village from our house and arrived at the little iron gateway. It was half open and I could see immediately that something out of the ordinary was happening. At the door of the dining room, the nearest of the 5 glazed doors opening on the courtyard, a grey-haired woman was leaning forward and trying to peer through the curtains. She was slight and wearing an old-fashioned black velvet bonnet. She had a fine, lean face which was disturbed with worry. As soon as I saw her, some strange sense made me stop on the first step before the gate. Where is she? Oh my God, she was muttering. He was here just now. He has been around the house. Perhaps he has gone. And between each sentence she tapped 3 times on the pane so lightly as to be almost inaudible, but no one came to answer the door to the unknown visitor. No doubt, obvious to the world, Millie had got her hat from the station and was now shut in the red room by the bed, strewn with old ribbon and iron feathers, saving, unsaving, and remaking her poor head. And sure enough, when they come into the dining room, followed by the visitors, my mother appeared. Brass were held in her hand, and with the half-finished head with ribbons and feathers on her head. She smiled, her blue eyes, tired from working until the end of day, and started and look, Frankers, I have been waiting to show you. But suddenly impressed when she was the old woman seated in the large armchair at the far end of the room. She stopped quickly, removed her hat, and for all of what followed, held it pressed to her bosom like an upturned nest in the fold of her right arm, the woman still wearing her bonnet and with her umbrella, a leather handbag on her knees, began to explain the reason for her visit, nodding and saying those things that a lady paying a call would make. Once she had regained her composure, she started talking about her son, assuming an air of pride and mystery which intrigued us. They had both come by carriage from Ladford and Gilgon, 14 kilometers from St. Agatha, a widow and very rich, or at least that was what she suggested. She had lost the younger of her 2 sons, Antoine who died one evening having bath with his brother in a polluted pond on their way home from school. She had decided to put the elder Augustine to board with us and for him to join the senior school. Now she praised the new boarder that she had brought us. I no longer recognized her as the grey-haired woman whom I had been banging at the door moment earlier. Then, with the air of a barefoot and haggard mother hen that had lost a wayward chick from her brood. Now she spoke of her son in admiring terms which greatly impressed us. He liked to please her and sometimes would follow along the bank of the river, waiting for miles to bring her eggs of water, hens, and wild ducks that he found hidden in the rushes. He would also set traps. The other night he had come across a pheasant in the woods caught in a snare. I, who dared not go home when I had a tear in my stomach, looked in amazement at my mother. But my mother had stopped listening. She made a sign to the lady to be quiet, and laying her nest gently on the table, she rose silently as though to surprise someone. Above us, from the first floor, the sound of footsteps came and went in the huge dismal attack, where lime leaves were put to dry and apples left to mature, initially shaking the ceiling above as they finally reached the abandoned assistant teachers' rooms, which were piled with old fireworks left over from the last 14th of July. I heard the noise in the room downstairs a little while ago, Millie whispered, but I thought it was you, Franco, some home. No one replied. We were now all three on our feet with beating heart. The attic door at the top of the kitchen stairs had opened. Someone came down, walked through the kitchen, appeared in the doorway of the dining room, and stood there in the dusk. Is that you, Augustine? It was a tall youth, about 17. It was too dark to make out much more than his pigeon head of felt pushed back on his head and a black smock tightly belted in like a schoolboy's, but I could see that he was smiling. He caught my eye, and before anyone could ask for an explanation, he said, coming out to the yard. For a moment I waved, then as Millie said nothing, I picked up my cap, went over to him. We went out through the kitchen and walked across the yard towards the sheltered part already deep in shadow. In the fading light I glanced. It was a tall youth, about 17. It was too dark to make out much more than his pageant hat, pushed back on his head, and a black smock tightly belted in a schoolboy, but I could see that he was smiling. He caught my eye, and before anyone could ask for an explanation, he said, coming out to the yard. For a moment I waved, then Millie said nothing. I picked up my cap and went over to him. We went out through the kitchen and walked across the yard toward the sheltered part already deep in shadow. In the fading light, I glanced up at his angular face with its straight nose and faintly shadowed upper lip. "See what I found in your attic," he said. "Did it ever occur to you have a look in there?" He held out a little veil, blackened wood, wound about with frayed fusses. The sun, or perhaps the moon, of last July disappeared. There was two that hadn't gone up. We will set of them just the same. When he threw down his head, I saw that he was close cropped like a pigeon. He was showing me the two fusses with paper abundant. He stuck the nail of the wheel in the gravel. Now, students, I am going to explain the chapter from starting. When he arrived at home, that was the day of Sunday, November 1819. He still say his house, although that no longer, and when he left the region, he was the 15 years ago, when certainly returned to his home, and he lived in the apartment of the upper school of St. Augustine. His father, to whom used to call Monsieur Cyril, and other students that the courses, the prepared for the teaching certificate and taught the middle forms. But he proud to be a Virginia creeper, and opened onto village through a large gate, the north, which is the north side. There was a road, and edged by low railing, which led to the train station 3 kilometers. He must have a chance to make a decision by inspector to perfect that he caused us to end up there. But he followed by his furniture and household goods to sat down by mother and himself in front of the rusty low railing. But his mother, whom he used to call Millie, who was easily the most meticulous housewife, and he ever known, immediately went the dusty room and once desperately concluded. After each move, the furniture would never. The often passed our Sundays in winter. Early in the morning, his father would be away some distant fog cover, gone to the fish for a pike from our boat. But it was a 15 years old when the cold Sunday in November, the first day of autumn, that the lead of the thing coming winter. Millie was waiting all the day for the carrying, then bring her new bonnet ready for expected bad weather. But the particular Sunday, the spectacle in front of the church kept him outside after the service. Several men dressed in their firemen's uniforms had formed up in columns and were stamping their feet in the cold as they listened. And Bourgeon, the fire chief, trying to get to grip with the nicest of drills. Where's he? She was muttering, when just now around the house, perhaps he gone. But between each sentences, she tapped 3 times at the pane, and so slightly to be almost inaudible. You could hear the murmur of the patrons' voices in quiet conversation. As for worried that he would be home late, he followed the wall of the great courtyard separately, which is the separate from the village to his house. And he arrived at the little iron gateway. His mother appeared, brass wire held in her hand, and with the half-finished head with ribbons and feathers on her head. She smiled her blue eyes, tired from working until the end of the day. She started